last part, which is coming out to the world. That was cool. I don't believe that everybody has to come out. No. And I always tell people this just because they see me do it and they're like, man, how do I come out? And I'm like, man, I don't know if you need to come out. Like, but for me, I needed to come out because I also was a public figure that was denying and not affirming the queer community. And so because I had stood up on stages, I was traveling and speaking against this, I knew that I had to come out and affirm not just myself, because that was mostly what it was for. I had to affirm the person that I denied publicly. I needed to affirm me publicly, but then also be accountable for my words, you know what I'm saying? And take some of that stuff back, the harm that I had caused with my words because I wasn't affirming. The things that I said to people who were queer and they were trying to seek and reconcile their faith and sexuality, like I had to kind of go back and clean some of that stuff up. So that was my other reason for coming out. It was necessary for me.
What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Queerly Blax Show. I'm your host, Ashley, and I'm so happy you came by. The Queerly Blax Show aims to normalize the everyday existence of Black, LGBTQIA+ individuals through an interview-style series with regular folks like you and me. So every week, a new guest shares their story and unique perspective on their existence as an LGBTQIA+ individual. Thank you for tuning in, and make sure you subscribe, download, set your reminders to the podcast so you never miss an episode. Enjoy the show. Welcome back to another episode of the Queerly Blax Show. I'm your host, Ashley. I'm joined today by a very special guest. I'm pretty sure y'all already know who it is, but I'm going to introduce her anyway, and I'm going to let her introduce herself. We got Jessica Mason in the building, y'all.
What's up?
Tell the people about yourself. Tell the people about yourself.
Man, what you want to know? I love people. I love myself. I love music. I love creating art that heals the soul. Man, it's just been a beautiful journey. I'm gay as hell.
Hey, I love that. Dope, man. Well, look, so, obviously, people know you for your music, helping people come out, helping people to deal with their families, deal with other toxic or non-toxic situations, people, places, things. But let's talk about you today. We're going to talk about you today.
What's
so
up?
When was the first time you knew you liked them ladies?
Oh, okay. So... man, that's a great question because I don't think I was actually aware of what was happening. So my first realization probably was when I was 18, and it was this lady in church that I was like, yeah, I'm definitely feeling her.
Lady in church, how old was she?
I mean, she was in her later 20s.
Like them older ladies right now.
Definitely was a bit older than I was.
And I knew it from you when you said lady, like, it was some lady at the church, like you was 18. But
at that time I had just turned 18. So in my mind, she was like an older, later 20s. She was older for me.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm trying to shoot my shot. So that was like my first realization. But I think when I look back on it, I definitely had some tendencies and some feelings back in high school for sure. But I don't think I ever paid attention to it and was like, oh, this actually means you're attracted to this person versus man, I just really think they're really cool. That's kind of how I approached it in high school.
Yeah, that feeling was different though. Did you play sports?
Huh?
Did you play sports?
Absolutely. I mean, I feel like I'm stereotypical point guard basketball. I feel like I'm just so stereotypical as a lesbian. If you name mass presenting these categories, I probably fall into all of them.
Yeah. So it was a joiner of the basketball team. You was like, or was it a cheerleader?
Honestly, so they came to me, but I just don't think I was ready because I was soft. I was still very much, I had my little rap, but I definitely was tomboyish. I would say that would be a great thing. So I feel like studs were approaching me and films, but I didn't recognize it as that at that time because I was definitely cloaked in a lot of religion. So I just never was open to it. But when I look back on it, I was like, oh yeah, they definitely was trying to shoot their shots. But I think I was more into the feminine women at that time.
Yeah, but because of the way you looked, the studs was like,
yeah. I mean, I still have studs hit on me today, all the time. They don't care. It's just They don't care. We don't care what you are. You stud,
No.
you film, tomboy. Honestly, it don't matter. They like what they like. They want what they want. They gonna shoot their shot. So
yeah, for sure. So you was 18. You liked to lay at the church. Did you ever act on that, or did you just was like?
Absolutely. I was a point guard. I was a shooter. So I shot a lot. So
Okay, how did that go with the lady at the church? Did you hit her with a scripture, or you was like, how you hit her?
So what happened? See, what had happened is when I realized I started getting like a lot of feelings and emotions, I was honest. I was like, I think I liked you like how I'm supposed to like a boy.
Today's episode of the Queerly Blax Show is sponsored by Queerly Blax Apparel. That's right, my clothing line, which features inclusive apparel for everyone in the queer community. Head over to www.queerlyblackapparel.com and pick up something for yourself or a friend. Oh, and the best part, use coupon code POD15 for an extra 15% off your purchase. Now back to the show.
But I like you instead. And she was like, man, that's crazy because I feel the same way. And so we ended up like, doing some things, kissing, all those other adult activities. And our pastor found out. And when the pastor found out, yeah, they kind of.
I was kissing at the church?
Outside the church.
Oh.
Yeah. Not in the church, but
y'all was in the parking lot like, all right, girl, I'll see you next Sunday.
No, it was actually after the purity ceremony.
What?
I can't make this stuff up. I can't make this stuff up, man.
In the parking lot after the purity ceremony.
Yeah.
Girl, I'll see you on Sunday, girl.
Yeah.
What? Yeah. The pastor looking out the window. He hit the blind on y'all like.
Needless to say, my pastor was praying for me. My pastor definitely was praying for me.
It's like, Lord, we about to lose one. Lord, we about to lose one.
Listen, I'm trying to tell you, that thing was hilarious. But yeah, it was definitely right after we got our little purity rings and I kissed her.
Wow. Did your pastor approach you about it?
No, they didn't find out until like a couple weeks later. Because ultimately, like, I had to ask like my youth leader at the time. I was like, is it okay if I'm kissing girls? Because I really wasn't sure at that time. Like, I mean, I knew, but like, I didn't have an understanding, right? Yeah. So like, I just knew, okay, you're gay. I guess that's not good according to God. Based on how I was raised. So when I asked my pastor, I was like, yo, I want to, like, I kissed somebody and she's a girl. Is that okay? And they were like, no.
Your pastor?
Yeah, I told my pastor. I was just like.
Just like that.
Yeah. I was like, I'm a very honest person.
Yeah.
Sometimes too honest. But I was like, yeah. So I kissed her, like, what's up with that? Like, is this actually wrong or is this okay or what? And then that's when they was like, no, this is not okay. Like, God is against this, and we have to go through all of this like deliverance and all that kind of stuff. So,
yeah. Did they put you on like a 12-step program?
Deliverance, kind of, yeah. Actually. Yeah, pretty much.
So from that, so did you? Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you? What denomination were you in?
Actually, non-denominational.
Okay.
So like evangelical,
yeah,
with a mixture of Black and Word of Faith with probably a little bit of holiness somewhat. It was a lot.
And a little bit of Baptist and a little bit of mix that joint up. Everything. Whatever they wanted, whatever is happening this Sunday, that's what we on. What? So you was with the lady. How so after they found out, what happened to y'all?
Unfortunately, they did like this intervention where they made us separate. We weren't allowed to talk to each other. We weren't allowed to like be around each other. I had to go full time into like critical, I guess, high risk mode, what you would consider, where I was with the youth pastor all the time.
Hyper gay.
Like, I had to be under like a lot of the pastors and leaders and stuff. And yeah, they took me through like the deliverance and mentoring. They got me all these mentors to try to like help me be straight. And then they also tried to get me a boyfriend, which that was a fail too. But yeah.
They just brought somebody to you like, hey, here you get this nice gentleman right here.
Suggested, yeah. They tried to suggest some things, you know what I'm saying? I can't say that like they were deliberately like, here, get a boyfriend, but they definitely were like, yeah, you should have you ever
put him in your path.
Very strategic.
Was he at least handsome?
To some people, yeah.
To some people.
Yeah, definitely. To some people. Like I've had boyfriends before, and to some people, I felt like they was cute. Some people tell me I date ugly people, but I just felt like, I like what I like. But
they was the apple of your eye.
Yeah, that's what matters. But yeah, so yeah, he was cool. He was all right. He was cool. He was my homie though, like my homie. So we got along very well.
Behind the scenes, you was like, you know what's up, right? But
yeah, we both knew what's up. We both knew, but we were definitely on this track of like trying to be straight. Like, well, I was. So like he was cool because I was like kind of like his homegirl, but he also thought was fine and was attracted to. So I was just really chill. And but it just didn't work. I was just like, there's no way I can have sex with you though.
Like, come on, man.
Yeah, it's not happening.
It's not giving.
Yeah, but he was kind.
when you were going through that, right? Were you like, from a mental perspective, because there's like two schools of thought. Like there's some people who, like, you say like you were trying to be straight, right? And then there's some people who are like going through the exercise. They're like, this is never gonna be like it for me. But like, were you committed to like, okay, I really want to like try to be straight, like I really want to like live into this? Or were you like, okay, let's just like move through this exercise and like just get this over with? Which perspective?
I was the first. I definitely wanted to, because it was taught to me that like God was not pleased, and more than life, I love God. Like more than anything, I was just kind of like, well, I want to be whatever God is pleased with, And the thing that they would say is like, oh, well, we're all sinners, right? Like, and for me, I was just like, I don't want to be a sinner. Like, why do I have to be a sinner? Like, I just want to be loved by God, and just whatever that needs to look like, that's what I want to be. And so for me, I was definitely tackling the sexuality part about my identity, because I felt like that was just the one thing that like I felt like I was doing everything else right. But just because I like women, I guess for whatever reason, God just won't accept me. And I had a very like hard time processing that. So mentally it was draining, because I did for a second think like, okay, God can really change me. Like, all right, bet God, you're going to take these desires away, because the church taught me like these are not my desires, but they're desires of either a demon or some type of satanic influence or some type of generational curse or whatever. And so I was like, all right, cool. So then if God don't like this, then God will just take it away. All right, bet. So I'm gonna just believe for that. So yeah. Didn't happen though.
Yeah. For sure. So then what was the moment where you kind of were like, okay, this is who I am, this is what it is, and I just have to, like, the process of reconciling it. Like, I love God, but I'm also gay. So how do I move forward?
So my story gets a little deep, and it kind of enters into why I'm doing the work that I'm doing now. I actually tried to attempt suicide because I just could not reconcile it. I was that person that was just like, I internalized the homophobic, like, I guess I had internalized homophobia so much to the point where I tried to end my own life, because I felt like, okay, God, this don't make sense. You're going to make me this way. I didn't ask for these feelings. Then they say like, okay, well, you can be born again and all this kind of stuff. I get born again. I still got these feelings. I feel like at this point you playing mind games with me, because I'm praying, I'm fasting. I went through the deliverance stuff. And these aren't just like feelings. My body is responding in ways that I am not asking for it to respond. And I'm also not acting on this. So I was living like a very single life for about 7 years. No action, no nothing, just trying to like kill the flesh. And I just got so frustrated, because I felt like, well, maybe God, this is just not what, I can't live this life. So let me just do the work for you, since I'm an abomination anyway. I had a lot of anger. And so I responded out of that anger. And I tried to harm myself, ended up being in the hospital. When I was in the hospital, I just remember God saying to me, like, you've been trying to live your life in front, like, for people who won't even be here to see you die. Because during that time, it was COVID. And so nobody was able to come into the room. Like, the doctor, it was just me and 1 or 2 doctors. And like, they're pumping me with fluids and all this kind of stuff. And so like, I had a real moment where it was like, man, like, the only reason why you haven't really been able to live in your truth and stand in your truth is because of what everybody else has been saying about you. But like, you have your own relationship with God, and what have you experienced with God? And from then I started just reading off like kindness, patience, gentleness, and none of that was ever a factor as it pertained to my sexuality. And then I just remember God like really like stirring up my heart to just say, yo, like, why don't you just trust me? Trust my love for you, you know what I'm saying? And live your life. And from there, that moment in the hospital was like the defining moment. That was like, all right, bet. I've been trying to live this one way. And that like hospital moment was the death of me denying myself. And coming out of that hospital, I chose to live a new life because I got a second chance, essentially. And so I was like, well, since I can't take that power into my own hands and in my life, I have the power to change my life and live in a different way. And so that's what I chose to do.
I love that. I love that. I'm glad that you're here with us and doing this work. What coming out of that, what were the conversations that you had with your family, your pastor? Do you still go to the church, that church? Like what did things look like after that?
Yeah, so I had actually left the church a while ago, just because outside of sexuality, it was a few other things that I just was not agreeing with, as far as like how they handle people in general. But coming out, the first step was coming out to myself, and just accepting like the first thing was like, I think I'm bisexual. But I just went with it. I was like, all right, we're gonna go with that. And then from there, like, as I started to like get to know myself a little more, I started to explore myself. I started to explore with other people. Then I realized like, okay, I definitely love women. Like I'm definitely in that space. So coming out for myself was one. And then the next step was coming out to my family. And that was actually not as bad as I thought it was. I think I dramatized it. Is that a word? Dramatized? Whatever that word is. I did that so much to the point where I was so scared, but they already kind of knew. So the response was kind of like, yeah, we knew. Yeah. But we're glad you figured it out, right? You know, and the other side of it was they were still conservative. So my parents, even though they knew, they still were kind of like, we don't believe that this is God's best for you, but we still will try to like, you know, support you. And so it's been a journey, like with my parents. My father was just very much like, girl, I knew I love you anyway. My mom was more so on the more religious end from a standpoint of, you know, I just don't believe this is God's best, but it's been a give and take type of thing where she tries to meet me in the middle, where she doesn't always understand, but she tries to be open. And I also try to be understanding of her apprehensions and also understanding that she was like this her whole life. She believed something her whole life. So I can't have an expectation for her to just automatically change everything that she's ever believed and ever felt, because I now have accepted this part about me. And so there's a level of just grace that kind of comes in, give and take on both ends. But overall, it was a really beautiful situation, which I know that doesn't happen for everybody. You know what I'm saying? And so I was definitely grateful for that. And the last part, which is coming out to the world. That was cool. I don't believe that everybody has to come out. Yeah. And I always tell people this just because they see me do it and they're like, man, how do I come out? And I'm like, man, I don't know if you need to come out. Like, but for me, I needed to come out because I also was a public figure that was denying and not affirming the queer community. And so because I had stood up on stages, I was traveling and speaking against this, I knew that I had to come out and affirm not just myself, because that was mostly what it was for. I had to affirm the person that I denied publicly. I needed to affirm me publicly, but then also be accountable for my words, you know what I'm saying? And take some of that stuff back, the harm that I had caused with my words because I wasn't affirming the things that I said to people who were queer, and they were trying to seek and reconcile their faith and sexuality. Like I had to kind of go back and clean some of that stuff up. So that was my other reason for coming out. It was necessary for me.
Yeah, no, I understand that, because sometimes it's like the shift, like in expectation, number one, for people, like don't expect that, you know, and then you got to give people that choice. Like, hey, I know I've been saying this, but we about to change. So I want to give you the opportunity to like
please unfollow me
or unfollow me and move, because what we not gonna move in hate, and we not gonna move in craziness. So if you choosing to stay on that path, then you got to roll out. Yeah, I feel
Absolute.
that. Yeah, gotta go. I love that. I think it's super powerful. And like one thing you had said in one of your songs, you said suppressing yourself, what'd you say, doesn't mean you're free.
Yeah.
And I think there's a few people, some bigger than others, who live that way, acknowledge their queerness and live straight.
Yeah.
How, because you were moving in a different space before you acknowledge that for yourself. What is your advice? What's your advice to those people?
To which group? The ones
to the people suppressing themselves.
I mean, if it's working for you, if you're really happy, do what you do. But don't try to create this one mode as if that needs to be what everybody should do, because it's not, and that's not true. I think a lot of times we preach that, because one person is doing it this way, that everybody has to do it this way because of this one toxic belief system through this theology that's not even accurate. But from that standpoint, I would just say, if you are genuinely like, I'm queer and I'm choosing to live a heterosexual lifestyle, and that is really like working for you, then work it. I don't really have anything to say besides, okay, cool. But I think where I become more vocal is when people try to put those beliefs off on other people and try to make other people feel bad because they're choosing to just embrace this part of their sexuality while they're choosing to deny it. And then also trying to make other people feel miserable when they feel miserable. I'm just not cool with stuff like that. So I agree. I think my ick is the only thing I have issue is when people one are harming other people, whether it's with your words or whatever, or living a double life. Those are like, other than that, I'm with you. Like, I feel like do your thing. I'm not a person who feels like people have to come out. I'm not a person who feels like if you are not comfortable with yourself, if you're not comfortable with whatever it is you're going through, or you feel like this is really how you should live, you should do that, but it's when you kind of start, people start talking out the other side of their face or doing stuff that don't line up with what you preaching, then that's when I'll be like, all right, like, like, because I know how hard it is. Like, it's hard to come out. It's hard to come out to yourself, and it don't matter what you look like or how obvious it is to people. It's hard to mentally wrap your mind around that because of what I think a lot of people are challenged with, which is full acceptance of yourself. And it doesn't even have to be about queerness. It could be about whatever, it could be anything. I got a big nose, I got a big head, I got I'm short, I'm tall, I'm, accepting yourself and all that comes with accepting yourself. People are going to see you for who you are. It's not a mask. It's not a facade.
Today's episode of the Queerly Blax Show is sponsored by Queerly Blax Apparel. That's right, my clothing line, which features inclusive apparel for everyone in the queer community. Head over to www.queerlyblacapparel.com and pick up something for yourself or a friend. Oh, and the best part, use coupon code POD15 for an extra 15% off your purchase. Now back to the show.
They don't, there ain't no barrier between your truth and other people. So if they judge you or if they respond to you, people are afraid of that. Like, they're afraid of the response to who they really are. Is to me is what it is. It's the judgment. But that's a part of us being Black, right? That's a part of us, our parents saying, what you doing? You're gonna embarrass this family.
Don't embarrass the family.
Don't get out here acting crazy, and all of those little things like that, are so trivialized and said so freely. But it's like you grow up and all those building blocks are in your mind, and you got to go back and pull all that shit apart and be like, damn, like, now I got to unwind all of this. Okay, here I am, y'all. I'm gay. Let's start with that. So it's crazy, man. It's a wild journey. So I commend you for, unpacking it all and just really, being transparent and using your music as a vehicle to help people.
Hey man, like I be
Super
telling
dope.
people, like the Black church.
Man.
See, so people think I hate the church now. I actually don't. I
Don't.
really don't. Like, I really don't. My problem is the harm that the church causes and doesn't take accountability for.
Mm-hmm.
I have no problem with people going to church. I have no problem with people worshiping and fellowshipping with God. Like, if that works for you, do what you do, but don't harm people in the process, you know. And if you do, be accountable to that. You know what I'm saying? Like, just be accountable, take ownership of that, because I don't know how many times like I was told to just don't talk about it. Like, be quiet, like just rap, like just do music, just focus on that. Well, and that's why I said in this song, we'll keep giving you this mic as long as you don't talk about like your sexuality, like don't bring it up. Like, clearly everybody knows, but like just don't mention it, because then you're going to mess up what we trying to do. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is a touchy topic that we don't really want to have that conversation. And I'm just that type of person where like I'm really honest. I'm not gonna like hide stuff. And so a lot of what I had seen, especially being in the music industry, being in the Christian space, man, if the queerness in the queer space, like that is nothing comparable to some of the things that I had experienced and I saw. And so like my underlying message, it really is more than sexuality. Like, of course, we all know sexuality is a part of who we are. The underlying message that I really speak to is learning to love and accept yourself, regardless to what everybody else thinks. You are your biggest advocate. You are your biggest like support system. And it's not to say that you don't need community. It's not to say that you don't need people, but a lot of times we look for external validation when really what we need is right inside of us. Like, God is in you. You know what I'm saying? For the people who believe in God, like you and God are connected. You don't need external validation or people to continue to tell you how to go, how to live, what to do, what not to do. Like, God is in your heart. And if you lean into that, you really tap into who you are, like there's a level of freedom that you can experience in love, like that is just overwhelming. So that's really my message of love and freedom, bro. But like, people just, I don't know, the church, I love the church, but sometimes they are so stuck, I think. And then when you think about the Black church, I feel like we're also just a little bit further behind. And there's some necessary conversations that need to be had. And I think those conversations are starting to really like catch wildfire right now in this season.
No, definitely. And it is a tough, it's always been a tough one because of how the church has been such a strong place. I'll say Christianity has been a strong place for us in terms of historically, right? Like, singing hymns to get through slavery and, what it means for us. So it's like, it's so hard to kind of step away, but it means so much to the part of us that's Black. But then like this other side is like, like, let's just not deal with that over there, So it is hard. And I think it's also unfair that people feel like, because you speak out against a part of the church that you hate the church. It's like people talk about, it be the pastor talking out against the church, but he ain't like the food from last Sunday. Don't mean he don't like the church. He don't, but if you're gay and you talk about the church and it's like, oh, you hate church, you hate God. Like, nah, it's just, hey, I'll just give him my self-assessment, hey, the music was great. The message was amazing. I just didn't like, where I was sat this Sunday. Like, that's all. Like, just my little survey, just putting it in an anonymous, I'm just putting it in an anonymous box with my name on it. That's all, but people have problems with the church, but it's just like, it's unfair that you can't have an opinion that's not just 100% positive and people feel like, oh, like you hate the church.
It's just very much like, and I used to be in this space and I'm still kind of assessing this and learning, right? Because I feel like in a lot of ways, I'm a baby gay from a standpoint of I don't fully understand the full context of the queer community yet. I'm learning a lot. And one of the things that I used to kind of be against is kind of talking about how the Black experience and the queer experience were very synonymous. Like, I used to be against that, being like, no, they're not. But as I've been in this space now, I'm like, wow, there's so many similarities in just the language, the type of oppression. And it's just sad to see a lot of this language being regurgitated from people who look like us. You know what I'm saying? Like our family members. And so that's just one of those things where it's like, when I think about what church has meant for us, and you talk about like slavery and how we use hymns, how, you know, we took the parts of the Bible where we knew, you know what I'm saying, that the slave owners, what they were preaching wasn't right. So we took it and we used the parts that would get us through those times to create messages in language to help us to communicate, to get to freedom and to hold on to that. And I think now what I see kind of happening is there's a reconciliation within our blackness that's happening. I don't want to speak too much on this because I'm still kind of learning about it, but like us coming, as we're coming into ourselves and we're coming back to ourselves, I think there's a lot of correction that's happening spiritually in regards to a lot of the theology that we've been taught and just kind of biblical things that are happening. And so it's just really interesting to kind of see, because I'm like, wow, yeah, there's some liberation that's kind of happening here, and I'm excited to kind of be a part of that. So it's been interesting.
Absolutely. No, it's a wild journey, man. It's definitely wild. So now you're out, you in these streets. Are you single?
No, I'm not single officially. Not single. I was, but I also wasn't in the streets. I realized that I'm not meant for the streets. I am meant for the sheets of one person. I did not survive in the streets. They ate me alive, and I would not go back out. So somebody found me in the house.
Not bad. So in a relationship, how did you guys meet?
So I actually met them training. Yeah, we were in the gym. And I was like, hey, we're cool. Like, we were actually friends before, but then I started like really getting to know them and hearing their story, and they're just the type of person that they were. I was just like, wow, like, I appreciate how you love people, like how you handle people. And that was like the most attractive thing, honestly. So I was like, wow, not only that, but you bad too. So, okay, cool. She didn't want to give me no play for a while. And she was like, really just like, no, I'm just going to do my own thing. And then, you know, eventually.
One thing lead to another thing. Yeah. No, I love that. So this was 2020. How has your fashion changed since you've been out?
Fashion, that's a great question. I love this question because that was one of the things that I was trying to figure out. My God. It's definitely has allowed me to like be able to explore my more masculine side, because I used to rap in heels, like 6-inch stiletto heels. And I don't know how I used to do that back then. I really don't. But now, I mean, I definitely have stepped into the more masculine side. Like, I like to shop in the men's section. Before, you wouldn't catch me in the men's section just because I was just so uncomfortable of fearing, like, I don't want to look too much like a man and all this kind of stuff. But now it's just like, I kind of just wear what I want to wear when I feel like wearing it. So sometimes I'll be like wearing some tights and a crop top. Other times I'll be in super baggy, like straight full-blown men's clothes. But it's definitely has come to a place where as I've gotten free of myself, like I got free of my clothes too. So I definitely have switched up the swag. I love. Well, I don't really shop, but I have like people who style me and stuff like that. So that's the benefit. I get to kind of tell them, like, this is kind of what I'm thinking. Can you help me find the clothes? And so they find it.
Bet. Yeah. Oh, that's dope. That's dope. Yeah, stylist is always dope. And you have your own clothing line.
Yes.
Talk about the clothing line.
Apparel. Yeah. So Sea Life Apparel, I actually started that in the pandemic because I was broke and a lot of people was really sad. And so I was like, all right, well, let me figure out how can I kind of spread hope during this time. So Sea Life Apparel was born, and I posted a shirt that just had fear, suicide, and anxiety and depression, because that was kind of like my way of like saying I'm done like living from this space. Like, I want to live above these lower vibrations and stuff. And so I put it on the shirt. Everybody was like, bro, this is fire. Let me get one. So that's kind of how it started. I was in my basement trying to figure out how to make the shirts, struggling like a mug. And then that mug just kind of took off. Like, I was able to scale the company. I think I made like 6 figures in like 3.5, 4 months or something like that. It was crazy. And so like, that was my first like encounter of like, whoa, this is something that really means something to people. You know what I'm saying? And from there, we've just been kind of spreading the message of It's actually on my t-shirt, never alone. And that's the motto. It's like, you may be going through some things, and a lot of times we think no one understands, but the truth is that all of us are connected. And so even if we don't like know your situation or have had the same experience, a lot of us can have compassion and love for each other, because we know what those emotions of loneliness feel like. We know what those emotions of depression feel like. It just might look different or might come from different experiences. And so like we try to create messages on clothing that like when you're just chilling, you doing your thing, you look up and you see somebody rocking this, that's like your motivation or your moment of like, man, a reminder to hold on and keep going.
Yeah. No, I love that. Super positive, super uplifting, and dope at that. Super dope.
Appreciate.
So what's the website? What's the website for your apparel?
Yeah, it's Seek, SEEK, Life, LIFE, apparel, APPAREL.com.
Bet, yeah, we'll put it all in the bio and everything. So talk about what you got coming up next. What you working on?
All right, so we got a lot of stuff happening. You know what I'm saying? No, really. I am dropping an album. It's probably, I think this is gonna actually be my first like full blown album. So this is gonna be cool. And it's talking about a lot of the things, my past experiences that I went through, just in the form of music. And so it's called For the Soul. And then that we also launched an app. And this app is Seek Life, the clothing brand, but it's an app where you can get meditation, guided meditation, sleep therapy, healing music, as well as like courses to help you either reconcile your faith and sexuality, whatever it is that you need in the mental health space, where we've developed the app to give you the resources that you need to be able to like go on your mental health journey. So those are the two things that we've been kind of focusing on, and doing more live experiences. And so getting on the road, doing shows. We did a healing experience, and we sold out the venue. It was really, really great, but everybody showed up. And so now it's a matter of like doing that again, figuring out how to make it go to another city and stuff like that.
Sound like it might be time for a tour.
Yes, that's what they want. That's what they want. So I'm kind of dragging my feet because I be doing a lot of stuff, but that's definitely gonna be in the works for sure.
Yeah, no, I love that. Oh man, well, you know what? Before we did, give one piece of advice to somebody who may be going through their own journey, similar to what you went through.
Man, there's so many things that went through my mind. I would say the biggest one is to give yourself grace. You don't have to have it all figured out, and understand that your story is your story. You don't have to come out before you're ready. You may not ever have to come out, and that's cool too. People are not going to always accept you or like you, but they can't give you acceptance. That acceptance comes from the one who created you, and you wouldn't be created if you weren't already accepted. So go with that and know that people can't reject you, man. Learn to love yourself, validate yourself. You're gonna be all right.
Yeah, for sure. Well, thank you so much, Erica. I really appreciate you coming through, spending some time with me. Tell the people where they can find you.
Yeah, every platform at Erica Mason Music. It's ERICAMASON. Music spelled just like you spell it if you was hooked on phonics. MUSIC music. No Z's, no K's.
Right. None of that craziness. Awesome, man. Well, thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Y'all already know, man. It's another episode of the Queerly Blax Show. I'm your host, Ashley. I'll catch y'all on the next one. Peace.
Hey.
Yeah.